Hey everyone, this is Anakin from Spirit Bear Studio. So my first video here as far as sharing Game Master tips. A lot of questions I get from people that are new and starting to, DM or Game Master. Um, the the biggest question I get is like setting up encounters and scaling, like, what to send at your party. And so, as far as my tips for there is make sure that the encounter you're building is relevant to the story you have. Um, don't try to, don't send something necessarily completely random. Um, kind of give it a sense that it would exist for, the story or the location. Now, I have sent things that were completely random and weaved them into and gave them a motive that worked, and I would say do that as well. But don't just say, like, if your party is in the Arctic North, all of a sudden they're attacked by Euphrates. That doesn't quite fit. I mean, unless it was like, okay, you know, they woke up somewhere else and, got swallowed by a magical mishap or something. Then that makes a little more sense. I mean, you'd have to add more details and fluff to it to try to sell it, but, you can go with that sort of thing. But however, when I would say, like, after your, like, session 0, which a lot of people mention about this is, before you actually start gaming, kind of get your feet wet and learn about your players. And I would say session 1 is send a medium, like, standard encounter that D&D or whatever game that you're running, they have a framework for building an encounter. It can be hit and miss, but I would say send a standard one against your party and see how well they do. If they do very well, then you know that you can, pump up your encounters and send something that's a little bit more meaner, and they're gonna handle it. If they don't do so well, you have some pretty fresh players, send a little stuff, easier stuff, but once they start catching on with things, then you want to amp up the difficulty. You don't want to send, like, deadly encounters left and right, but hard encounters are better. Because I would say as you're running a game, you are spending time, and those players are spending that time with you. I don't want to make you anxious or anything, but if you are going to spend these, like, 2, 3, 4, possibly more hours with this group of people, you want to try and make it as worthwhile as possible. So, as a note I would have is you want to do medium encounters here to introduce conflicts, or like kind of like what the story's going on. Like, that's kind of like get your feet wet in the story. But when it comes to critical moments in your game, as far as like combats and things like that, you want to stick with hard encounters. And I know they give things for, like, very easy or easy encounters. Try to stay away from that. Don't send, 2 thugs against somebody, or 2 thugs against your party when they're, like, level 5 characters, and you just sent 2 challenge rating 1 creatures against them. You're just wasting time. It's one thing if the party was, like, searching for them as opposed to you sending stuff at them, or, bringing the encounter that way. But I would say stick to harder encounters, and then if it's a really critical thing, like your big bad guy and things like that, make them deadly encounters. I mean, if that's going to be the climax of your story, you want it to be big, and you want it to be something on their toes. You could even do a deadly encounter for, like, what you would consider like your not necessarily your end, but, like, definitely, like, a really peak. Like, let's say it's, like, end of an important chapter or something in your story. You definitely want to make those memorable, or like something extremely difficult that they're going to remember. Because If they see the odds and they're like, well, shit, how are we gonna do this? If your players have moments like that, and then they actually have to like look at all their resources, and then they manage to pull it off, even if like one or two of them drop or half the party drops. But if they somehow survive it or anything and scratch by where it's just luck rolls and this and that, you will leave an impression on your players that will last a lifetime. So that's my suggestion for building encounters, is make sure that they, if it's like, your standard whatever, make them tough. Not necessarily like draining everything, but make them tough, make them worthwhile fights so they'll get decent experience and treasure. When it comes to your big moments, your really big moments, deadly encounters. Maybe, your party will remember them, and they'll remember other little fights and things like that. Don't pepper your people with easy and trivial encounters. They're just time wasters. It wastes your time as a game master for planning your game, and it wastes their time for they're going to be bored if you're just sending trivial whatever. Video games, sure, that works, because combat is really a few seconds, and that's it in there, mostly. Whereas D&D, it's like, yeah, sure, combat technically is less than a minute, but in real time, it's like there's 5 hours just spent on a combat or more. So, but yeah, that is my advice as far as building encounters. I'll be posting more videos as far as my tips and suggestions. Feel free to leave comments or message me even if you have questions about building an encounter, running your games. I will definitely try to answer your questions and give you tidbits. I have been playing D&D since I was 8. I'm 32 now, but I've been a game master since I was 10 years old, and I started back in 2nd edition and 3rd edition, and I've also dabbled in Mech Warrior and White Wolf and Call of Cthulhu. I've dabbled in many different games, and I can give you good solid advice. So yeah, feel free to leave a something in the comments, and I will get back to you as soon as I can, and I will talk you through it. I'll give you the best advice I can to help build the best game for you. I'm not good. You'll do everything there as far as, but I will do my best to give you solid advice to make sure you have the best time, and you can give your players the best time as well. Alright, well, have a good one. I hope everyone had a great St. Patrick's Day. Alright.